Hi everyone. Welcome to the Elendi Files, where we navigate the complexities of the global regulatory landscape of medical products. Our goal is to help make global medical product regulations accessible to everyone, whether you are a manufacturer, intermediary, or a regulatory specialist, or a CEO of a MedTech startup. You're in the right place. Be sure to connect with us on LinkedIn and our website, ElendiLabs.com. This is Teddy, the General Manager of ElendiLabs. At ElendiLabs, we're all about connecting clients, be it medical product manufacturers, medtech startups, biotech startups, with the right regulatory expertise to get products to people faster. Today, I'm thrilled to be joined by Eugenia from Instituto Pedro Nunes, a firm that helps startups to navigate the complexities of the EU market. We're going to be spending some time learning more about the regulation landscape in the EU. And Eugenia, thanks for being here to kick things off. Could you give us like a brief introduction of what IPN, your company, specializes in?
Yes, of course. Hi, hello everyone. So I'm Eugenia. I'm a business developer here at Instituto Pedro Nunes, which we can call IPN to be short and easier. What we do is we are based in Portugal, specifically in Coimbra, and we are an innovation institute, and we work together with companies, mostly startups and early stage ideas, and we help them through the process of getting their product to market. Here specifically, IPN works with incubation and acceleration of ideas and companies, being at the moment on the last 10 years consistently on the top 10 of in the world of incubators with academic based, which we are very proud of. And apart from that, we also develop R&D support for companies, not only the ones that are incubated here with us, but generally worldwide and European-wide. And we work very deep into the field of MedTech, health tech, and general digital health. What we do is a little bit more than consulting. We tend to see ourselves as a partner of these companies, and we work them from the very beginning, from the very first idea, until the time they are ready to go to market. We like a lot to call ourselves a one-stop shop because they can do a lot here with us. From the very beginning, when they have just an idea and they want to prototype or do a proof of concept, we are here from that beginning. We support them with R&D, but our expertise is at the moment robotics, telemedicine, telerehabilitation. This has been the work that we've been doing very deeply for the past 15 years. And with that, we basically expand through a lot of areas. We started with supporting R&D, and then we noticed that the companies that were coming to us with needs in this field, they had also other needs, being one of them the need to validate their solutions in real world. And the thing is, we work with startups. So what we know from the beginning is, unfortunately, it's very hard for them to test their solutions in real world, at least here in Europe, because for most of them, real world, it is a clinical setting or a hospital setting. And as we know, hospitals are busy saving lives, and it's very hard to get this collaboration going with them. So this is where one of the points where we focused a lot. Actually, here in Portugal, here in Coimbra, we have a partnership with the local hospital, and we even have a dedicated room inside the hospital just for us to test devices. Actually, we can just book materials to be there inside of their room, so the companies are able to test their devices properly. What we do in this field, we work a lot with usability testing, but also clinical investigations, both helping them submit everything to the authorities, to the authorities here in Portugal, both ethics committee, but also the national competent authorities, and also to conduct the studies itself. Not only, actually, to be honest, not only usability and clinical investigation, we do a little bit more than that, general pilot and real world testing. We also do a lot of matchmaking between clinicians and startups because, once again, small companies have a lot of difficulty to be able to have a clinician giving feedback for their solution. So this is something we do as well. And that we have been noticed that it is very important for companies because they do not only need feedback when they have the solution ready, but in the earlier stages. For example, we have this idea, does this make sense in a clinical setting? Or how's going to be the adoption? Or how is the workflow currently and how we can improve it? So this type of feedback we help companies collect together with clinicians. So this has been something that we have been doing as well and has been working really well, luckily. But apart from that, and I think that probably this is the main topic that brought us here today, is we support companies with the regulatory support and regulatory affairs to get their product, namely medical devices, to market here in Europe. Namely, what we do a lot. From helping them to register with the competent local authorities, but also with all the process with the notified bodies here in Europe, namely supporting them choosing the notified body that is right for their solution, but also during the process, giving them feedback and helping out. Also helping developing the technical documentation, obviously all the the testing and validation that they also need is supported by all the other things that I was mentioning before, namely usability, clinical investigations, which can be as well mandatory for achieving CE mark. And we do also support implementing quality management systems, namely ISO 13485, but also adaptations from other quality management systems that they might have in order to be compliant with the standard for medical devices. We do risk management, so we do quite a lot, and we have been doing this for the past 10 years. So we have a lot of experience with companies bringing their product to market, and we have seen a lot in the past years. We were here when COVID outbreak started, so the type of devices that we were supporting at the moment were mostly class 1 devices, masks, gloves, and so on. And there was a time that we had a lot of work, but the devices were quite simple. And then afterwards, with all the evolution with medical software and apps that generally manage health and everything that we are now addicted to track with our wearables. And then lately, in the last years, with the boom of AI in the medical field as well. So we have been busy. We have seen a lot of solutions from the past years, very, very different types of regulatory paths to market. And also one thing that happens a lot is we support them through CE mark, and then we support them again to get FDA clearance, because usually for companies in Europe, that tends to be the next step. So, yeah, I hope it was not a very long introduction of what we do.
Well, it's I can tell it's a very IPN is a very supportive company that helps startups in particular, and it provides like exhaustive an exhaustive list of services to startups from end to end, from start to finish. You might be there with them from R&D along to CRO and then registration and everything. I think it's really positioned as a company that works with startups instead of just providing a um, specific uh, area of service. Yeah, I think it's more comprehensive, and especially for startups, they might not be able to tell their needs very well because they are
Yeah.
new to the field and they have a lot of um, emergencies and unexpected situations. So they
Yeah.
could always come to IPN for help, or you may come to their rescue because yeah, a lot of time you're like putting out fire for them. Yeah, it's great. But I'm wondering, since you've mentioned that you have worked with so many startups, and today we'll be focusing on medical devices. So, any specific cases that you think that might be of a high relevance and interest to the audience? Um, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, yes. Obviously, we have been doing quite a lot. Also, we as ourselves we work in EU funded projects. So basically, I don't know if you're familiar with it, but here in Europe, we have many innovation programs that support consortiums that bring together companies, but institutes like ours, university, hospitals, and so on, to develop develop assets. And one of the assets that we have been developed, and this one I can talk a lot about that because it has been developed here in house, is a robot for teleechography, which means that the robot basically works in with two different stations. One station being with the patient and has a robotic arm that is performing echography, and in the other hand, there's a radiologist, a clinician that has another arm of the robot, but they are in different rooms, that works like a joystick. So they control in distance the device. The device has been developed here in house, in our premises, in our labs, for the past years now. And all the support that the product has been having regarding regulatory has been done in house with us. And one thing that I can say for sure is that most companies treat the regulatory pathway, and very specifically here in Europe, the compliance with MDR to achieve CE mark as a final step. And it's not. And this is from the very beginning that you're taking decisions about design. This will already impact your path to market, your path to achieving CE mark, because every design decision that you are making now will have an impact in your device later on, and as well how the notified body will look at the device, how is the risk for the user of the device. So everything has to be thought out from the beginning. And when we develop things ourselves in-house, this is the biggest takeaway that we can take, because we have several teams working together with this, not only the engineering team, the team that works in R&D, but also the regulatory team has been supporting them from the beginning. And we dodged a lot of bullets having the regulatory team from the beginning there. And at the moment, the robot itself, it's working completely remotely. At the beginning of the year, we did echography from Poland to Portugal, which means one part of the robot was in Poland and another in Portugal. So we are already in the final steps of development. And for example, at the moment, the robot is it's doing a clinical investigation here at our local hospital. So we don't even have it on premises. It's being tested in real world for performance.
Sorry, is this robot a product of your client, or is it like an in-house product?
Yeah, it is actually, it was developed in a consortium with a company and with us. So we own part of the PI, and the company owns another part of the PI. And this was just an example of things that we have been developing here, and how regulatory support impacts a lot the device from the beginning,
So
from
any
design,
any
actually.
factors for any factors to consider for registering a robot or robotics? I'm not an expert. Yeah, I would like to know to explore.
Yes, I mean, it's not easy. It's not ever easy with innovation and new technology,
And you just
because
mentioned that no RA's involvement should start from day one, right? Because it has
yeah,
to be the RA team has to decide the regulatory pathway that the device has to undergo. So how exactly does the process take place? Yeah. Uh, what are the people on the RA team thinking about when they take on this type of project?
yeah. I mean, mm, well, as I was saying, like obviously from the very beginning, the regulatory team was involved in the development. One thing that most companies don't, and we have seen this a lot, don't start with, is actually making requirements that will make sense throughout the process of development, but also that will always make sense during the process of regulatory, because the requirements that you are defining at the very beginning of the project will have major impact, because as you know, the intended use, the purpose of the device itself, but also the claims of the device, the users, the user environment, all of this will dictate how the classification of the device is going to be from the future on. And then, go ahead.
I'd like to know. So to be more specific, in this case, I'm wondering if you could disclose more details about the robots involved in this case, using the principle that you just mentioned. For example, the indication. For example, yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, we at the very beginning we sit together with the company that was working with us in the consortium, but also we call a lot of experts on the matter, namely clinicians, because, and this is very important, they always have best feedback because they are the ones with the boots on the ground. I don't know if that's a correct expression, but they're the ones in the field. So they are the ones who will tell you the needs and what do they need that the technology evolves us. So we involve this very large group of people together, and we start to define what would make sense for the device, and like what we wanted the device to do, what the solutions at the moment at the market don't do, what is the expertise that we can bring, each one of the person in the room can bring to the device itself. And with that, there was a list of requirements that was created for this device that was only in design phase, let's say, or not even in design phase at the moment. And then the regulatory team just came straight in, giving support, analyzing every requirement, what is the impact of every requirement in the intended use, what is the impact in the environment of use, because we have very detailed information at that moment because we are involving clinicians. So we have a lot of detail what the device should be doing. And this is at the very beginning. So at the very beginning, we had a pretty good idea of what the device is going to do, what is the purpose of it, who's going to use it, what is going to be the environment for use, where could be one part of the robot and where could be the other part of the robot going to be involved in the process, like in the real world. So obviously, the radiologist cannot do everything by himself. So who's going to be involved more? So there's going to be multiple users. And if there's going to be multiple users, which training do they have to do to be able to operate such a complex device? And then this sounds like, oh, so they were, designing something, but it was a little bit more, because it was not designing the product. We were already designing what the usability testing will look like. We were already designing, not in the full sense, but like we were taking notes already for how is going to be the usability, how is going to be the clinical investigation, what is going to be the device of the class if we keep this set of assumptions from the beginning. So we were already taking notes, and we were already planning the roadmap for the product to be able to achieve CE mark. And just to be clear, the device is not CE marked yet, because it's in development. As I was saying, it is at the moment doing a clinical investigation in the hospital, but nevertheless, we are already evolving a lot with the technical documentation, because we started from the beginning. Everything related to design and development, it's already recorded, it's already in place, where at the same time, the engineering team was building the solution. They was already involved, the regulatory team, giving support, making sure that everything is traceable, everything is compliant. So basically, that was the process. That is still the process. The engineering team is still working on the device. The regulatory team obviously still has a lot of work ahead. And
Yeah. So what are the timelines and costs like for registering, bringing it from start to finish? About the cost and timelines?
Yes, I mean, for this, it will depend a lot on the type of the device. Class 1 devices, like the easiest devices that you have, don't require in Europe involvement of a notified body. So what you have to do is you have to be compliant with the regulation, which is MDR. As you know, actually, I didn't mention this before, but the thing is, the regulation is in place Europe-wide, namely the member states. The member states, they all follow the same regulation. So this is a big selling point for getting CE mark, because you are complying with a huge set of countries. So for class 1 devices, obviously you have to have technical documentation that is in light of MDR compliant, and you also have to have a quality management system in place. With these two big set of documentation, you are able to register your device together with a competent national authority. And you have to do this for each member state that you want to sell. So basically, you have to register with the local authority. Exactly. In Portugal, for example, it is Infarmed. And they have different fees regarding the registration. Some, because obviously I don't know by heart all member states, but some it's a fixed fee for register the product. Others, like for example, it is in Portugal, the registration doesn't cost anything, but you have to pay per sell, a percentage of your selling in the space of Portugal. So, but the thing is, to develop this documentation, some companies are able to have this support in-house, like regulatory support in-house. Some doesn't. And so this might be the first step where they start to spend money, is to have this type of support, to have regulatory support. For many companies, it doesn't make sense to have a full regulatory team in-house working. I've been hiring a full regulatory team in-house to develop this. So they tend a lot to do consultancy in this first phase of the product. And usually is where we come in. We are hired a lot to do this type of work. And afterwards, we support them. We register the device with the competent authority. And for a class 1 device is that. And obviously, the CE mark doesn't end, because obviously the CE mark in this case is self-appointed, because you can put it as a manufacturer, as the legal manufacturer, you can place the CE mark with a class 1 at a class 1 device. But the thing in this is where it gets tricky, because once you have the CE mark, it's not over. Because you have all the post-market activities, you have regular inspections from the authority. I mean, as you should, because these are devices that are using in a health setting. But the thing gets even more complicated for higher devices or higher classification devices, which they involve the notified body. So basically what it means is that the CE mark is not going to be self-appointed. Who's going to give you the CE mark? It is the notified body, after they make sure that all your documentation is compliant and they audit your quality management system. This process, like developing all the documentation and so on, it takes up to a year in most cases. And here it doesn't differ a lot if it's a class 1 device or if it's a higher device, because the regulation doesn't say, oh, for class 1 device, you just have to do these, and for higher classifications, you have to do more. No, it doesn't state like that. So the documentation should have the same contents independently of the type of the class. And here is where it gets tricky. With the involvement of the notified body and also the device having a higher risk, you will need to comply with a lot more things. For example, a higher classification device, it is mandatory to have a clinical investigation. And as lower devices, it's not. You can do it by comparison from devices that are in the market already. So you can also do that. So, I mean, obviously, the higher the classification risk, the higher risk is going to impose to the patient. So that's why it is more strict. And here, from the development of the documentation, which takes more or less a year of work, then you have the time that the notified body takes to analyze all the documentation. That also takes up to a year. So as you can see, this can be a very long process. In the past, and because there are more notified bodies now, and then now with the rapid evolving of softwares, medical device, and so on, we have been noticed that also they are getting faster. So in the last full process that we submitted together with the client, which was a couple of months ago, the notified body took about 8 to 9 months, which was quite fast. And also we were very happy because we started noticing that they are also evolving and they are also getting faster, and also they are getting more familiar with solutions that are innovative. And so this has been a nice change. Nevertheless, this is a process that takes a lot of time. And also the process with the notified body, also it's not cheap. It can take, from our experience, up to 50K. I mean, some a little bit more, some a little bit more, some a little bit less. But it is, and this only for the first year of certification, because every year the notified body requires that for you to be able to keep your CE mark. Every year they're gonna re-audit you to make sure that all the process and all the planning that you have in your technical documentation, it is being followed, especially the plans regarding post-market and so on, because obviously, in the moment that you are submitting them for the first time, they are plans. Afterwards, after they are in the market, after they have the CE mark, they can see how the plans are being executed. So obviously, this makes total sense for them to keep you in the loop and keep analyzing how you are evolving with the product. And also because now we are in the era that we have medical softwares, and as you know, medical softwares have new features and they have updates and so on. So we have to be able to trace every change, every update, and to make sure that development is going hand to hand with the regulatory.
Great. But I would like to know, instead of just focusing on the bright side, any common reasons for failing the registration process for startups?
I mean, the registration itself, no, because as I was saying, the registration is done with the local authority, and once you have the CE mark, the registration is quite simple. The problem here is getting the CE mark, and what we have been noticed is companies don't involve regulatory teams from the beginning. A lot of companies that work with us, they come to us, at the very end, they treat a lot the regulatory compliance as, oh, this now is the last. We have now a fully functional product, so now we want to do the regulatory, and this never works that well. We have to do a lot of reverse engineering and going back to even to the requirements. That was like the very first thing at the beginning of the design. So it's a lot of work when things just start at the end. And this has been consistently something that we struggled a lot, is with devices that didn't think of this from the beginning on. Also from the notified body side, what we've been noticed that has been a struggle, it is with the AI models. We have to make sure that all the data is diverse, which means the data that you are using to train the model and then the data you are using to test the model, obviously, has to be diverse, has to be from men, from women, from children, obviously, depending on the type of solution, but also ethnicity is like a big issue. So can you imagine training a whole AI agent that doesn't take all of this into consideration? Obviously, this is a point where notified body is very, very, very strict, and is where, because also this is completely new, so companies are now popping up with AI solutions. So this is quite new, and they are taking a lot of time because they want to make sure that the AI algorithm will work for whoever is using the solution, and actually the space for error is very, very small. So this also has been a struggle. And also this, as a piece of advice, use data, like for the companies that actually will listen to this, use data from coming from different centers, which means multi-centric data, because this is also an issue. You can't have the data that you're training your model coming from the same place, and then you're testing with the same data, and then you are doing the final testing again with the same data. This will not pass through a notified body, and this has been a struggle because everyone is learning, even the regulatory teams that are giving support to companies, because technology changes so much in such a fast, such a small piece of time. Also, one thing that we have been noticed that is not a struggle at the moment, but it's going to be from now on, because AI Act will come in place. So apart from the companies having to comply with all the regulations that they had previously, plus the MDR, now they also have to comply with AI Act. And AI Act is going to be mandatory from 2027, which means in a year. And technical documentation will have to comply with AI Act, but also quality management system will also have to comply with AI Act. There's two things. And then another thing that has been worrying us a lot, which is companies that are already in the process, that are already submitting their dossiers to the notified body. What happens here is going to be mandatory from 2027. They take more or less 1 year analyzing the documentation. When the documentation is going to be CE marked,
they have to revise the document. Okay.
Yes.
Well, it's...
This has been one thing that we are actually warning companies that are working with us, or they started the process a few months ago. It's like, maybe we should start with that. I know that you want to submit to the notified body now, but maybe we will need a few more months just to be sure that you are also compliant to the AI Act, because it's going to take a year. By the time you get the CE mark, it's going to be mandatory, and we have to redo it again. And so this is also a challenge that we have been struggling a lot. And this is something that the companies that are working with us, we are already running after it. But I think this is a good piece of advice for companies that want to start thinking about bringing their product now to market in Europe, which is AI Act. It's there. It's next year already.
Well, thank you so much, Eugenia. These are some incredibly practical insights. Thank you so much for sharing your boots on the ground perspective and some real cases with us today. And for everyone listening or reading the transcripts, we'll be featuring Instituto Pedro Nunes as our specialist firm on the ElendiLabs platform. Thanks again for joining us, and we'll see you again on the platform. If you haven't checked our website, please head to elendilabs.com and be sure to connect with us on LinkedIn. Okay.